Pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable unto Thee, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, bless us as we move forward to do the business of this county and this airport. Lord, that we will always do Thy will. Put your hand of God upon this area, Lord, and protect us and always have safety. May we always remember You, Lord, in everything we do. Amen.
Thank you, John. All righty. Get down to business. The supplemental resolution of Paulding County Airport Authority to approve the final terms of the Paulding County Airport Authority Revenue Bond, Paulding Northwest Cloud Airport Document Series 2013.
We have Jim Woodward here, who's our bond counsel on our bonds.
Excuse me, we can't hear. Can you all speak up, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Jim Woodward, law firm Woodward. I'm the bond attorney for the authority of the county in connection with bond issues and including this transaction. What we're doing today is a supplemental bond resolution to the bond resolution adopted by the airport authority on September 18th. This one basically, the September 18th bond resolution approved bonds with certain parameters, not to exceed principal amount, not to exceed interest rate, not to exceed final terms, things along those lines. From the date of that resolution, the placement agent went out and found a bank, in this case Hamilton State Bank was the winning bidder, and basically this approves the terms of Hamilton State Bank's term sheet. Basically the terms are, for the airport authority deal, it's 2.25%, which is great interest rate. The maximum, the principal amount is going to be $3,405,000, and the final maturity is going to be February 1, 2024. Also, this bond can be redeemed or basically prepaid at any time, at no prepayment penalty, in whole or in part, which is exactly what the airport authority is looking for. This also approves the final form of the contract with the county. Also approves the placement agreement, which places the bonds with Hamilton State Bank, and basically, final terms of this transaction.
Any questions? We need a motion to approve.
Yeah, you'll need a motion. I want to add to that I think this is the first bond we've ever issued that didn't have any prepayment penalties or restrictions. And since this is going to be reimbursed to us by the FAA, it was important for us to get that in there so that as soon as the FAA reimburses us, we can go ahead and pay the bond off. So that was a fantastic feature of this bond issue.
Well, won't you go on and explain what this bond going to pay for, please?
Yeah, this bond is going to be used to pay for the taxiway widening for the parallel taxiway to go from 35 feet to 50 feet. And it's also going to pay for the 500-foot taxiway extension on the west end, 500 feet to get us to the end of the runway. So those are primarily the two items that are covered by the bond. It also includes some lighting. Of course, when we extend the taxiway, we have to extend the taxiway lights. And we also have to move our PAPIs, our approach lights on the runway 13 in. So it covers all of that.
Okay, and our contractor is Astra.
Astra, that's correct.
Okay. All righty, I need a motion. Motion to approve. So moved. All in favor?
Did that?
I don't think you get a second, Cal.
All right. Can you get a second? Second. All right. And that's approved by Ellis Aston, Kerry Tettermore, Dave Austin, Allen. Miss Debbie, Carol, Allen. All right, so Lynn. All righty. Item number 3. Resolution of Paulding County Airport Authority to approve post-issuance compliance policies and procedures in connection with tax-exempt bonds.
Okay, this is something that I'm doing for all the governments I work with throughout the state of Georgia. The IRS, in the past year, has basically added an additional rule for government entities and nonprofits when they issue taxes-exempt bonds. It's not a requirement yet, but probably will be within a year. That they have certain written procedures about how they maintain their records, monitor the funds, other items. This is basically a written policy and procedure that y'all are adopting for the Airport Authority, and since y'all are issuing this bond and taxes in bond, just so y'all will be in compliance, the IRS does within a year changes policies regarding these procedures. So this is basically to get ahead of the IRS, so you'll have something on file in your minute book, kind of being proactive to respond to this.
So these things will be all
all itemized as to what we have to follow.
Exactly, and so in this case, y'all appoint a point person. In this case, the airport authority has a contract, like in this case, one deal with the county. It'll be the finance director of the county, will monitor the funds, keep records, basically keep the closing transcript, all documents, and then any questionnaires from the IRS that'll be the point person with the IRS. It's a good thing to have, but also it's probably something that will be required every year, so that's we'll make sure y'all are ahead of the ball game. So that's all this resolution is.
Council, we need to do on this.
The same, just need to make a motion to adopt the resolution in a second.
I make a motion to approve the post-issuance compliance policies and procedures in connection with the tax exempt bonds.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Ellis, aye, Kerry, aye, David, aye. You aye, everybody's aye. All right, good deal. All righty, item number 4. Approved contract with Silver Comet Terminal Partners LLC for payment of the Paulding County Airport Authority Revenue Bond Series 2013.
This is the agreement, we've been talking about this agreement for several months. This is the agreement that basically paved the way for us to do the bond issuance because our Silver Comet partners are actually going to pay the bond payments. So we're not on the hook for paying those bond payments, and as far as we're concerned, there'll be no money out of pocket to the airport authority or the county. The Silver Comet will pay them until such time as the FAA reimburses the money. So that's what this agreement is. This agreement was put together by Tom, so if Tom has any additional comments for you, he is the author of the agreement.
In conjunction with the resolutions and bonds that you've just approved, or that you've asked the court to approve, there will be payments, obviously, in principal and interest until such time as the FAA makes a reimbursement. And so what this contract does with Silver Comet is obligates them to make those principal and interest payments, and also obligates them to place some security, $500,000 worth of security, to make sure that there's sufficient funds there for them to pay those payments as they become due. The intent being that after the FAA reimburses the authority for the expansion, then they will be reimbursed the principal, but not the interest, because the FAA will not reimburse us for interest. So basically, in essence, they will pay the interest carry on these bonds throughout the term of the bonds until such time as they're paid off.
And the airport authority will not have to pay back any interest at all.
That's correct, yes.
So
Can I ask a question before y'all go any further and vote on that? I know we usually take questions.
That's up to you, Joe.
I'm the post-school commissioner of this area, and I'd like to ask a question, and if you would allow me to do that.
Well, I don't mind you asking a question, but we cannot open this floor up for questions.
I understand, and I'm not asking to open the floor up whatsoever.
Or can you wait till afterwards and just ask us?
I would like to ask it now. And I think everybody will agree that we're not gonna open the floor up, because you didn't open it up before. It's never been opened up. So I just would like to ask a question concerning what Blake just said.
Let me ask the legal, what do you think, Tom?
It's in your discretion, Mr. Chairman. I mean, you do run the issue, obviously you run the risk of other people. If you're not going to open it up to everyone, then you have an issue with other people maybe unhappy that you've allowed certain people to ask questions and not others.
I would ask that you allow me to ask the question. I would ask the audience that you would allow me to be the one to ask the question, and nobody else would interrupt and continue on, just simply because I would like to have the opportunity to ask this question.
Well, I'd rather if you just address the board.
I will address the board, but I'd like to do it before y'all move on this. It's your decision.
Well, and I say we're not gonna open the floor up.
Okay.
Any questions?
Okay.
But if you will contact any of us and tell us what your issues are or questions are, then we'll get you on the agenda and we'll let you talk as long as you need to.
I appreciate that. My question was gonna be a very simple question, and I don't.
Well, that wouldn't be fair to everybody here if I did that. Now, last week it wouldn't have been fair, today it's not gonna be fair, so I'm just not gonna allow
Well,
it.
I'm gonna ask the audience, are y'all okay if I ask a question?
You're our representative. We're from District 2, you're our representative. You're on our behalf, yes.
council says that we can let you ask the question to us, and we don't know if we're gonna respond to it or
I
not.
understand.
But you can ask the question.
I understand. Blake had just said that your comment was you had worked on this agreement that you're fixing to vote on, I assume, for several months. Is that correct?
Worked on it with the Silver Comet.
Obviously, you've worked on an agreement for 14 months since August of last year.
Right, well, not this agreement.
But you've worked on an agreement for several months, and it's tied to him paying back these bonds, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. So my question is obviously, and Blake told me from day one, when we talked after the air show, that I wasn't made aware of anything that was going on here at the airport with this agreement. I was the only commissioner that was not made aware. But yet I've been asked to vote on things that have had to do with the airport here over this year. I've been asked to vote on things, and so I haven't had all the information that I needed to be able to vote on things as a commissioner that ultimately funds some of these projects. Is that right?
Yes, you have voted on several items.
And I haven't had all that information. I haven't had all that information.
You haven't voted on anything that's related to this bond?
I have.
No, sir, the Astra contract is with the Airport Authority, it's not with the Board of Commissioners.
Nothing, okay, but nothing else that I've done had anything to do with,
Not with the bond, no, sir.
with the bonds that we have worked on a couple of weeks ago didn't have anything to do with this contractor.
That these,
Or anything to do with the people doing the work on here that's gonna be paying us back this entity.
these bonds are directly related to the taxiway work, which is not a contract with the Board of Commissioners, it's a contract with the Airport Authority.
Okay, and that's nothing that we voted on previously,
No, sir, it has nothing to do with the Board of Commissioners, it's an Airport Authority contract,
period.
period.
And so the commissioners aren't backing this bond in any way.
Now, the commissioners, and that's a question for legal counsel as to how that works, but what I'm telling you is the construction contract that this bond is paying for is with the Airport Authority, not the Board of Commissioners.
Right, the construction contract.
Right.
I understand, I'm talking about the bonds to pay the construction contract.
Okay, that's attorney.
So basically, the authority is issuing the bonds, will raise, principal on the bonds, be placed into a project fund. Those bond proceeds will be used to build the project. The security for the bond is a contract with the county, where the county basically
Right.
will agree to make the payments to the extent that, they're not paid from this company pursuant to this contract. And also the intent to be reimbursed from the FAA at a later date, once the grant money's come in. And so the county does have an obligation to make payments up until they do either get reimbursed or to the extent they're not paid for from this
Okay,
federal
so-
contract.
I appreciate that. So I go back to, it's still bonds that we voted on, is that right? To say that we're gonna back if the airport authority was to drop the ball. We're still backing those bonds. Is that, I'm still voting for the taxpayers to back those bonds. I know I am. I'm asking.
Oh, sure, yeah, basically,
I'm-
the contract is, the county basically agrees to make payments, contract
Okay.
payments to the authority, pay principal and interest in the bonds. It really comes down to the extent, whether the payments don't come in from this company, and also, basically, with the intent that the FAA will reimburse the county. for
Right.
those payments.
We're hoping that FAA is gonna reimburse. We're hoping that this guy's gonna do what is that right? This guy's gonna do what he's supposed to do. And I
The
mean,
contract says.
and that's what the contract that you're all working on today, that we've
Yes.
already dealt with those bonds before, so,
Well, you've not approved the bonds. That's what your meeting today is.
I understand.
Okay, so you've not
Okay.
approved the bonds up to this point.
Is there anything you want to help me with?
No, but you said just, you had one simple question, so. I
Yeah.
just-
And, well, and I apologize, it
Yeah.
really was one simple question. It was, I'm asking you if this is related to those bonds that we've already been discussing. So that's my simple question. I
Mr.
appreciate
Parnell,
the
the FAA
opportunity.
has always refunded what we request. We've always been paid for it.
I understand, but the bottom line
So
was,
it
I've
doesn't
been,
work.
I've been asked to vote on things and the citizens back up things over this past year here at the airport, when y'all have known about a different project going on. And that's really not fair to me or the citizens. So that's it. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'll let y'all know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All righty, need a motion to approve.
Okay, I got a question. The $500,000 is put in an escrow account. Is that silver comment? Are they gonna deposit that in an escrow account?
They're gonna keep it, it's in an account that is in their name, but the authority will be the only one that has signature authority on, so they won't have any access to it, even though it's still
So,
their money.
so that $500,000 would be in their account, but we would have the only authority, we'd be the only authority to sign and retrieve that money if need be.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's the idea, is that you'd use that $500,000 to pay the principal and interest payments. I think they're biannual. You'll use that money to pay the principal and interest payments until such time. Hopefully then, by the time that's expended, you'll have FAA reimbursement.
Okay.
Even if you don't, though, they're still obligated to pay the payments even beyond the $500,000. The $500,000 is not the end of their obligation. If, for instance, if it took longer to get FAA reimbursement, they would still be responsible. It's just the security would not be there any longer.
What's the typical turnaround time for reimbursement on something of this sort?
Well, we actually haven't done a reimbursement like this before with the FAA. We've done a reimbursement on the land, but that was different because we knew that with the land reimbursement, that we had to finish all of our construction before we'd be eligible for the reimbursement on the land. So we didn't finish our construction until 2010, and then we were reimbursed in 2013. So it took 3 years on that, but we had other construction projects. I say we were done with our construction, we still had other construction projects that we were pursuing, like the expansion of the terminal area. So we were getting funds for other projects at the same time that we were trying to get reimbursement as well. But I'm anticipating 2 to 3 years is what I expect. Could come quicker, could come slower.
Okay, anybody got any other questions? I need a motion to approve. Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Elsie, aye, Gary, aye, David, aye, Larry, aye, Alan, aye, everybody aye, okay. All righty, this time we have no other further business. I made a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all so much for putting out your cameras for me.